Su puta madre, tío. Y le arranca, le cuesta arrancar el streaming, ¿eh? Uso del CPU 2%. Ahora pone otra vez que está en directo, tío, pero me ha tocado los cojones. Ha echado a todo el mundo, vamos. Ha estado toda la gente en el otro directo cortado, ¿eh? Pero lo que yo no sé
Sí.
por qué no puede reconectar el mismo directo, si antes lo reconectaba. Antes cuando se me cortaba un directo con el Streamlabs OBS, se reconectaba solo, al mismo.
Sí.
Ya se oye, claro, porque es uno nuevo. Hostia puta, tío. Qué putazo.
Desde que estamos con el confinamiento y todo eso,
Los
las,
directos petan, petan
a los
muchísimo.
directos, las conexiones, guau, se saturan. Están en el otro directo hablando, dice.
Que se vengan para acá. Están todos allí hablando. 36 hay aquí ya. Se escucha entre una pecera, pues eso es el PC, tío. Porque con los mismos cascos en la consola no me pasa. No sé qué algo tiene que haber, tío.
Yo creo que es por el micrófono.
Pues el micrófono en la Play va perfecto. Y a los PB le pasa lo mismo. A los PB cuando se pone a hacer directo por el PC se le escucha igual.
A ver, antes preguntó Made in Italy. No, no, yo trabajaba antes para una tienda, pero yo trabajo por mi cuenta ahora.
En el directo en el otro hay 170 personas, ¿eh? Pero veniros para acá. Me corta esto. Hostia, que éramos 200 esperando para el directo. Hemos quedado 36, 58 hemos quedado ahora. Se han quedado todos en el otro, tío. Conexión excelente. Es que la conexión va perfecta. De pronto se pa y peta. Esto, el mínimo de conexión que te pide para hacer la conexión es 4500 y yo lo tengo puesto a 16.000 para que luego se vea mejor.
Señores, 2 minutos.
Que están allí todavía en el otro, ¿eh? Hostia, tío. A ver, voy a quitar el otro. Si es que todavía está. ¿El otro está? No. A mí el otro no me sale. El otro a mí no me sale. Solo me sale el de ahora.
No, a mí tampoco me sale.
Me sale este, que somos ahora mismo 86. Antes éramos 200 y pico. Vale. Así no peta esto otra vez, tío. Van a explicar como la otra vez con la PC4 Pro, que salió el Marcel ni lo mismo, hablando, explicando todas las cosas.
Cuenta atrás, 60 segundos, pone aquí.
La otra vez lo hizo el Marcel lo que hizo eso. Enseñaron la PC4 Pro en un video y luego el Marcel empezó a explicar todas las características de la consola y todo eso. ¿Harán eso o ni enseñarán la consola? No lo sé. Vamos, ahora somos la mitad, somos 100. Antes éramos 200 y pico, tío. Dice, este vídeo lo tenían preparado para la feria que se canceló. what's the noise? What's the noise?
Ya va a empezar.
Alejandro. Voy a actualizar, Alejandro. Ocultar el chat, Alejandro. Si no se puede poner por pantalla completa.
Debería, ¿no? Como puede pasar de todo, de que enseñe la consola, las especificaciones. Veremos a ver.
Que se ha petado, que va. ¿Eh? Esto ya tiene que arrancar en breve.
Eso va a empezar ya.
Tiene que salir la cuenta atrás. Ahí, tin, ton, ton, tin. Que empieza. Ahora, vamos a ver. Tin, tin, ton, tin. The Road to PS5. Vamos a ver.
Ahí va. Empieza.
¡Vamos al mambo! ¡Vamos al
Mira.
mambo! Vamos a ver qué va a pasar. Tin, tin, tin. Hostia, con la pantalla en blanco aquí en grande parece esto las televisiones antiguas. Cuando salía la carta de ajuste. ...134, antes éramos 200, tío, que se ha cortado el directo, no ha cortado el rollo, Dice 400.000 espectadores ahí en el estreno, 400.000 personas, viendo el mismo vídeo, un momento. Bienvenidos, cuñados y cuñadas, a un nuevo directo de Lucón Gamer.
Bueno, señores, esto empieza ya 50 segundos.
Y se va a salir en bata el Mark Cerny. ¿Te imaginas que sale con una bata y con el pelo todo afeitoso? Y si el PC es lo mejor que hay, coge la PC5 y la tira al suelo, la rompe y la pisa, ¡Hostia! ¡Hostia! Y la bata se la quita y vuela sola, ¡Hostia, tío! Saludos para la herida. Vamos, yo creo que la consola algo bueno tiene que tener para enseñarlo al día después del Xbox y no haberse esperado. Vamos a ver. Llora el sillón del cagador. 3, 2, 1. Ahora
3,
sale,
2, ahí está.
ahora
Ah,
sale
empezó.
Marcelni y dice: ¡apagar! Me lo van a hacer como el otro día.
Plan for GDC. But
A
we
ver,
do have some super exciting news about PS5, and who better to bring that to you than the one and
este es el
only
nuevo
Mark Cerny.
presidente, ¿no?
Without further ado, over to you, Mark.
Thank you, Jim.
Sí,
Ya está, aquí el Marcelni del tirón.
There will be lots of chances
arquitecto.
later on this year to look at the PlayStation 5 games. Today, I want to talk a bit about our goals for the PlayStation 5 hardware and how they influenced the development of the console. I think you all know I'm a big believer
PlayStation
in
1,
console
PlayStation 2, PlayStation
generations.
3.
Once every 5 or 6 or 7 years, a console arrives with substantially new capabilities. There's a lot of learning by the game developers, hopefully not too overwhelming, and soon there's games that could never have been created before. Now, it used to be that as a console designer, you'd somehow intuit what would be the best set of capabilities for the new console, and then build it in complete secrecy. For the PlayStation consoles, that period lasted through PlayStation 3, a powerful and groundbreaking console, but also one that caused quite a lot of heartache, as it was initially difficult to develop games for. So, starting with PlayStation 4, we've taken a different approach, roughly centered around 3 principles.
Escuchando los
The first of these is
desarrolladores.
listening to the developers, which is to say that a lot
Que han
of what
escuchado
we
a los
put into a
desarrolladores para
console
meterle
derives
potencia que le
directly from
pedían.
the needs and aspirations of the game
Meterle calvo
creators.
flops.
We definitely do have
Hablando un
some
poco de
ideas
la
of our own,
PlayStation
but
3,
at
que
the
fue un
core
poco
of our
difícil de
philosophy
programar
for
al
designing
principio.
consoles is that game players are here for the fantastic games, which is to say that game creators matter. Anything we can do to make life easier for the game creators or help them realize their dreams, we will do. So, About once every 2 years, I take a tour of the industry. I go to the various developers and publishers, sit down, and discuss how they're doing with the current consoles and what they'd like to see in future consoles. This requires weeks on the road, as reaching the bulk of the game creators involves talking to well over 100 people at something like 24 publishers and developers. And it is incredibly valuable.
Está diciendo eso, que han escuchado a los
By the way,
desarrolladores y
the feature most
que le van a
requested by the
meter
developers,
más
that
fuerza
was an
al
SSD,
culo de olvidado, que lo
which
tiene
we
muy,
were very
muy
happy
suelto.
to put in the hardware, but a lot of problem solving was required. I'll be doing a deep dive on the SSD and surrounding systems later on in this talk. It's also key to make a generational leap while
Evolución,
keeping the
balance
console
y
sufficiently
revolución.
familiar to game developers. I think about this in terms of balancing evolution
Habla del
and
SSD.
revolution. Now, with PlayStation 1, 2, and 3, the target was a revolution each time with a brand new feature set. That was great in many ways, but time for the developers to get up and running got longer with each console. In the past, I've called this time to triangle. Here's what I had for those 3 consoles. To be clear, I'm not talking about time to make a game. Developers will be ambitious, and it may take them 6 years or so to realize their vision. What I'm talking about is that dead time before graphics and other aspects of game development are up and running, and trying to minimize that. On the other hand, if we're trying to reduce that dead time to 0, that means the hardware architecture can't change at all. We're handcuffed. We need to judge for each feature what value it adds and whether it's worth the increase in developer time needed to support it.
La mano lleva una cosa rara.
So with PlayStation 4, we were able to strike a pretty good balance between performance and familiarity. We got required learning back to PlayStation 1 levels. With PS5, the GPU was definitely the area we felt the most tension between adding new features and keeping a familiar programming model. Ultimately, I think we've ended up with something
Hostia, que con la PlayStation 5 ya lo más fácil de desarrollar.
Like we're striking about the right
desde la época de la PlayStation 1. Ahora,
sí, es lo que da a entender, que quieren dar facilidad.
Que desde la PlayStation 1, cada vez que sale una consola era más difícil desarrollar. Y con la Play 4 ya era otra vez muy fácil, que con la PlayStation 5 es todavía igual de fácil.
GPU performance, and the amount of RAM. The increase in graphics performance over the past 2 decades has been astonishing, but there are other areas in which we can innovate and provide significant value to the game creators, and through them, the players. That's why the SSD was very much on our list of directions to explore, regardless of what came out of the conversations with game developers and publishers. The biggest feature in this category is the custom engine for audio. That's today's final topic.
Hablando del audio.
For vastly improved audio, and in particular 3D audio, isn't something
el audio 3D, que es muy importante.
It's much more the case that we had a dream of what might be possible 5 years from now.
Vale, pero queremos ver los números, no el audio 3D, que ya lo habéis dicho 20 veces, tío.
So here again are the 3 principles. The first being enabling
Escuchando a los desarrolladores,
to drive the hardware.
el SSD.
To me, the SSD really is the key to the next generation. It's a game changer. And it was the #1 ask from developers for PlayStation 5. As in, we know it's probably impossible, but can you put an SSD in it? That was a discussion we were also having internally. It was clear that the presence of a hard drive in every PlayStation 4 was having a positive impact. A lot of things that would simply have been impossible at Blu-ray disc speeds were now possible. At the same time, though, in 2015 and 2016, when we were having these conversations, developers were already banging up against the limits of the hard drive, and a lot of developer time was being spent.
Por ahora se está arrollando mucho y no está diciendo nada. Lo mismo de antes, que es muy importante el SSD, que ahora es más fácil programar que antes, desde la época de la Play 1, y que el 3D es muy importante, el sonido 3D.
That hard drives are neither particularly fast nor flexible. If all your data is in one block, which is frankly not very likely, you can load 50 to 100 megabytes a second.
Las velocidades del disco duro de la Play 4 y ahora de la Play 5, que será 5 veces más rápido, ¿no?
If you compress your game packages, you can fit more data on the Blu-ray disc and also effectively boost your hard drive read speed by the compression ratio. We support zlib decompression on PlayStation 4 that gets you something like 50% more data on the disk and 50% higher effective read speed. Unfortunately, though, it's highly likely that your data is scattered around in
¿Y este
various
tío es
files
americano o
online,
inglés? Que habla en
as
inglés,
well
pero
as
muy
sourced
fino,
from
pero se
multiple
le entiende
locations
bien.
in those
Parece un
files.
inglés
So
británico, un poco
lots of
así.
seeks are
Es que yo lo
emitted
estoy
at 2
entendiendo
to
bastante bien.
50-ish milliseconds each.
Y
My rule of thumb is that the hard drive is spending
lo que
2/3
está
of its
explicando
time
es que está
seeking
años
and
luz
only
el
1/3
SSD
of
del
its
disco
time
duro.
actually loading data. Putting all of that together, a gigabyte is very roughly 20 seconds to load from a hard
Y
drive.
que eso, la información está
Now,
segmentada por
a
todo el disco
gigabyte is
duro.
not much data. Games are
Un disco
using
duro
5
por,
or 6
por
gigabytes of RAM on
sectores,
PlayStation 4, so boot times
por
and
eso se
load times can
desfragmenta
get
y todo
pretty
eso.
grim. Or to put that differently, as a player, you wait for the game to boot, wait for the game to load, wait for the level to reload every time you die, and you wait for what is euphemistically called fast travel. And all of that leads to the dream. What if we could have not just an SSD, but a blindingly fast SSD?
5
If we could load
gigabytes
5
segundo.
gigabytes a second from it, what would change? Now, SSDs are completely different
Entonces,
from hard drives. They don't have
un
seats
disco de
as
estos
such.
tipo M2,
If
eso
you
es muy
have a
rápido lo que
5
lleva.
gigabyte a second SSD, you
Adiós
can read
tiempo de
data from
carga.
1,000 different locations in that second.
Y luego traerá
Pretty
un
much at
puerto
speed.
para meterle otra expansión
As
de
for
memoria,
time
supongo.
to load a gigabyte, this is next gen we're talking about, so memory is bigger. Instead, we should be asking how long to load 2 gigabytes. And the answer is about 1/4 of a second. I mean, that's amazing. We're talking
2
2
gigas
orders of
en
magnitude, meaning very
0,2
roughly
segundos,
100
¿eh?
times faster. Which means at 5
Y el otro
gigabytes a
tardaba 1
second for
giga
the
en 20
SSD, the
segundos.
potential is that
Imagínate.
the game boots in a second. There are no load screens. The game just fades down while loading a half dozen gigabytes and fades back up again. Same for a reload. You're
Es 100
immediately
veces
back in the
más
action after
rápido.
you die. And fast travel becomes so fast it's blink and you miss it. As game creators, we go from trying to distract the player from how long fast travel is taking, like those Spider-Man subway rides, to being so blindingly fast that we might even
Pero es que
have
esto va a
to
durar
slow
1 hora,
that
entonces este
transition
tío va
down.
hasta aquí, vamos,
Pretty
soltando
cool,
todo.
right? But for me, this is not the primary reason to change
Ahora
from
que
a
abogado
hard drive
también
to an SSD.
el
The
olvidado,
primary reason for an ultra-fast SSD
¿Por
is that
qué?
it gives the
no
game
sé, dice que
designer
está haciendo ahora de
freedom.
abogado en Twitter, yo qué
Or to
sé.
put that differently, with a hard drive, the 20 seconds that it takes to load a gigabyte can sabotage the
300
game if
espectadores,
a
¿eh?
developer is trying.
300 espartanos.
I think almost all of us in the room have experienced this, maybe
Es
in
que
different
1 hora lo
ways.
que va a hablar,
Say we're
hablar,
making an
no.
adventure game
Ah,
where
no,
we
que
have
estaba
two
anunciado
rich
de 4 a
environments where
5,
we each
dependiendo de
want
la
enough
hora, creo que era,
textures
¿no?
and models to fill memory. Which you can do as long as you have a long staircase or elevator ride or a windy corridor where you can ditch the old assets and then take 30 seconds or so to load the new assets. Having a 30-second elevator ride is a little extreme. More realistically, we'd probably chop the world into a number of
Hombre, lo
smaller
que es verdad
pieces
que la
and
gente
then
lo
do
que
some
quiere es ver la
calculations with
consola y los números.
sight
Las
lines
tonterías
and
que
run
digan no le van a
speeds,
importar,
like
aunque
we
en
did
verdad es
for
importante, ¿eh?
Haven City when we were making Jack 2. The game is 20 years old, but not much has changed since
Eso es
then.
verdad, la gente lo que quiere
All
ver es los
those
números,
twisty
los números.
passages are there for a
La
reason.
consola, el
There's a
juego.
whole subset of level design dedicated to this sort of work, but still, it's a giant distraction for a team that just wants to make their game. So when I talked about the dream of an SSD, part of the reason for that 5 gigabyte per
Streaming
second
on
target was
HDD.
to eliminate loads, but also part of the reason for that target was streaming. As in, what if the SSD is so fast that as the player is turning around, it's
Eso
possible
es verdad,
to
que
load
en los
textures
juegos
for
el
everything behind
entorno
the
en
player
3D no
on
se
one
ejecuta
side.
entero, solo
If you
se
figure that
ejecuta lo que
it
tiene
takes
delante
half a
tuya.
second to turn, that's 4 gigabytes of compressed data you can load. That sounds about right for next gen.
Ahora con los nuevos
Anyway,
discos duros
back to
estos
the hard drive.
va a
Another
cargar más
strategy for increasing
sectores de
effective
lo
read
que es el
speed is
mapa
to
y
make
entonces
big
no
sequential
va a tener
chunks of
popping
data.
ni esas
For
mierdas.
example, we might group all the data together for each
Claro,
city
esa es
block.
la idea.
That removes most of the seeks, and the streaming gets faster. But there's a downside too, which is that frequently used data is included in many chunks and therefore is on the hard drive many,
Ahora todo lo que está a
many
tu
times.
alrededor se queda cargado ya,
Marvel
entonces no
Spider-Man
tiene
uses
tiempo de
this
carga. Cuando te
strategy,
va a
and though it
acercar a
works
otra
very
zona,
well
eso se
for
va
increasing
cargando,
the
entonces
streaming
nunca va a haber
speed,
tiempo de carga
there's a
directamente.
massive duplication as a result. Some of the objects like mailboxes or news racks
Este
are on the
tío,
hard
claro que es el
drive
diseñador de la
400
PS5, de
times.
la 4 y de la
What
de
I'm
la PC Vita.
describing here are things that cramp a creative director's style. Either level design gets a little bit boring in places, or the data is duplicated so many times that it no longer fits on the Blu-ray disc. And you end up with hard limits on the player's run speed or driving speed. The player can't go faster than the load speed from the hard drive.
Pero es que todas las cosas que ha dicho
And
ya se
finally,
sabía.
I'm sure many of you have noticed that after a patch download, a PlayStation 4 will sometimes take a long time to install the patch. That's because when just part of a file has been changed, the new data can be downloaded pretty quickly. But before the game boots up, a brand new file has to be constructed that includes the changed portion. Otherwise, every change would add a seek or two. Even so, you can occasionally see this happening on game titles. They start to hitch once they get patched enough. With an SSD, though, no seeks, so no need to make brand new files with the changes incorporated into them, which means no installs as you know them today. There's yet one more benefit,
La
which is
RAM.
that system memory can be used much more efficiently. On PlayStation 4, game data on the hard drive feels very distant and difficult to use. By the time you realize you need a piece of data, it's much too late to go out and load it. So system memory has to contain all of the data that could be used in the next 30 seconds or so of gameplay.
342
That means a
espectadores, ¿eh?
lot of
¿Llegará a
the 8 gigabytes
400 o
of
qué?
system memory is idle. It's just waiting there to be potentially
Sí, ¿no?
used.
¿Por qué no?
On
Si
PlayStation
no se hubiera
5,
cortado al
though, the
principio,
SSD
tío,
is
que
very
éramos
close to
200 a
being
empezar.
like more RAM. Typically, it's fast enough that when you realize you
El
need a piece of
paradigma de la
data,
nueva
you can
generación.
just load it from the SSD and use it. There's no need to have lots of data parked in system memory waiting to potentially be used. A different way of saying that is that
Se está
most
centrando
of
mucho en lo que
RAM
es las
is
memorias
working
del
on the
juego.
game's behalf. This is one of the
Es la
reasons
RAM y
that
el disco
16
duro.
gigabytes of GDDR6 feels right for PlayStation 5. The presence of the SSD reduces the need for a massive intergenerational increase in size. So back to the dream of the SSD. Here's the set of targets. Boot the game in a second. No load screens. Design freedom,
No hay
meaning no
pantallas de
twisted
carga.
passages or long
Ultra velocidad de
corridors.
streaming.
More game on the disk and more game on the SSD. And finally, those patch installs go away. The reality, though, is that the SSD is just one piece of the puzzle. There's a lot of places where bottlenecks can occur in between the SSD and the game code that
Vale,
uses
que esto
the
ya lo
game.
sabemos, lo del disco
You can
duro,
see this
pero
on PlayStation 4. If I use an SSD with 10 times the speed of a standard hard drive, I probably see only double the loading speed, if that. For PlayStation 5, our goal was not just that the SSD itself be 100 times faster.
hostia,
It was
pues ya lo
that
dirán los
game loads
teraflops,
and
¿ves?
streaming would be 100 times faster. So every single potential
Que aquí en verdad está
bottleneck needed to be
explicando las
addressed.
cosas de la
And
consola,
there
que
are a
importante,
lot
pero
of
es que a la gente normal no le
Let's look at
importa
check-in
eso, a la
and
gente
what
normal
happens
nada más
when
le va
its
a importar el
overhead
número que
gets
digan,
100
ya
times
está.
larger.
¿A
Conceptually,
quién te
check-in
interesan
is
los
a pretty
números?
simple process.
Claro, la
Data
gente
is
nada más lo que
loaded
quiere es los
into
números.
system memory
En
from
verdad
a
esto
hard
es
drive or
importante,
SSD.
pero
It's examined. A
que a
few
la gente
values
eso
are
le da igual. La
tweaked
gente
to
va a
check
decir, yo
in,
quiero ver
and
como
then
los
it's
bits.
moved to its
¿Cuántos bits
final
tiene tu
location.
consola?
But the
32, ya está.
SSD
Eso es lo que
space
quieren
we're
saber ahora.
talking about, that last part, moving the data, meaning copying it from one location to another, takes roughly an entire next-gen CPU core. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. If all the overheads get 100 times larger, that will cripple the frame rate as soon as the player moves, and that massive stream of data starts coming off the
A él lo
SSD.
dirá, este tío se va
So
a
to
liar,
solve
se va a
all of that, we
entretener aquí
built
un
a
rato
lot
hablando.
of custom hardware, namely a custom flash controller and a number of custom units in our main chip. The flash controller in the SSD was designed for smooth and bottleneck-free operation, but also with games in mind. For example, there are 6 levels of priority when reading from the SSD. Priority is very important. You can imagine the player heading into some new location in the world
El
and the
Idecli,
game
no tengo ni idea
requesting a few
de nada de lo que
gigabytes
están
of
poniendo ahí,
textures.
¿eh?
And while those textures are being loaded, an enemy is shot and has to speak a few dying words. Having multiple priority levels lets the audio for those dying words get loaded immediately. On one side, that flash controller connects to the actual flash dies that supply the storage. To reach our bandwidth target of 5 gigabytes a second,
5,5
we ended
gigabytes
up with a
segundo.
12-channel interface. 8 channels wouldn't be enough. The resulting bandwidth we've achieved is actually 5.5.
Ya con la vieja, en un giga tardaba 20 segundos en cargar un giga. La nueva, 0,2 segundos en cargar 2 gigas.
The key question for us was, is that enough? I mean, it's tempting to add more, but Flash certainly doesn't come cheap, and we have a responsibility to our gaming audience to be cost-effective with regards to what we put in the console. Ultimately, we resolved this question by looking at the play patterns of a broad range of gamers. We examined the specific games
Todos los
that they
datos
were
los dará al
playing over the
final
course
en
of
una
a
tabla.
weekend or a week or a
Primero
month,
vais explicando
and
todas
whether
las
that
cosas.
set of games would fit properly on the SSD. We were able to establish that the friction caused by reinstalls or redownloads would be quite low, and so we locked in on that 825 gigabyte size, while also
Lo que está de
preparing
puta madre que
multiple
ahora
strategies
los
so that
DLC,
those who want more storage
las
can add. I'll go
expansiones,
through the
el
details in a
online
moment.
que tú no quieres instalar, no lo va a instalar.
Back to the flash controller. On the other side, it connects to our main custom chip via 4 lanes of Gen 4 PCIe. And inside the main custom chip is a pretty
PCI
hefty
Express
unit
4.0.
dedicated to I/O. Before we talk about what that does, let's talk compression for a moment. PlayStation 4 used zlib as its compression format. We decided to use it again on PlayStation 5, but on my 2017 tour of developers, I learned about a new format called Kraken from Rad Game Tools. It's like zlib's smarter cousin. Simple, similar types of algorithms, but about 10% better compression, which is pretty big. That means 10% more game on the UHD Blu-ray disc or on the SSD. Kraken had only been out for a year, but it was already becoming a de facto industry standard. Half of the teams I talked to were either using it or getting ready to evaluate it. So we hustled and built a custom decompressor into the I/O unit, one capable of handling over 5 gigabytes of Kraken format input data a second. After decompression, that typically becomes 8 or 9 gigabytes, but the unit itself is capable of outputting as much as 22 gigabytes a second if the data happen to compress particularly well. By the way, in terms of performance, that custom decompressor
La
equates
descompresión
to
Kraken,
9 of our Zen
Hostia.
2 cores. That's what it would take to decompress the Kraken stream with a conventional CPU. There's a lot more in the custom I/O unit, including a dedicated
Está
DMA
explicando cómo
controller. The
funciona el
game can
nuevo
direct
chip de la
exactly
consola. Aquí viene
where
la
it wants to
CPU,
send
la
the data coming
GPU.
off of the SSD. This equates to another Zen 2 core or two in terms of its
Descompresión
clock
Kraken, ¿eh?
Its
Hostia,
primary
tío.
purpose is to remove check-in as a bottleneck. There's 2 dedicated I/O coprocessors.
Eso ha
in a
quedado
large
guapo,
array
la
of cores.
descompresión
These aren't
Kraken,
Zen 2
¿eh?
cores.
El
They're
sí
there
o sí, ¿eh?
principally to direct the variety of custom hardware around them. One of the coprocessors is dedicated to SSD I/O. This lets us bypass traditional file I/O and its bottlenecks when reading from the SSD. The other is responsible for memory
Pero es que ya el tío
management,
está siendo
which I know
demasiado
doesn't
técnico,
sound like
explicando, mira,
anything
es que te está
related to the
explicando lo que es el
SSD,
chip.
but a lot of
Está en la
developers map
pastillita
and
que lo he
remap
olvidado,
memory
dice que
as
una
part
mierda.
of
Mira, aquí todo
I/O,
esto es lo que te
and
está
this too
explicando.
can
Todo lo
become
que hay en la
redundant.
pastillita del tablet de los chinos
There are
de
coherency engines
200
to
euros, como
assist the
dices.
coprocessors. Coherency comes up a lot in places. Probably the biggest coherency issue is stale data in the GPU caches. Flushing all of the GPU caches whenever the SSD is
Descompresión
read
crack.
is an unattractive option.
Los
It could
controladores
really
DMA
hurt the GPU
dedicados.
performance.
Dos
So we've
coprocesadores.
implemented a gentler way of doing
Con la
things,
RAM en el
where
chip.
the coherency engines inform the GPU of the overwritten address ranges, and
Hombre, es
custom
que la
scrubbers in
explicación que está
several
dando
dozen
es
GPU
súper,
caches do
hiper,
pinpoint
mega
evictions of
técnica,
just
vamos.
those address ranges. The best thing is, as a game developer, when you read from the SSD, you don't need to know any of this. You don't even need to know that your data is compressed. You just indicate what data you'd like to read from your original
Hijo puta, habla de los
uncompressed file
teraflops.
and where you'd like to put it, and the whole process of loading it happens invisibly to you and at very high speed.
Apagar.
Back to the dream. Thanks to all of that surrounding hardware,
5
our
gigabytes por
5.5
segundo.
gigabytes a second really should translate into something like 100 times faster I/O than PS4.
Ah, mire, ya,
and allow
ya ha
the
sacado
dream
mi
of
hermano
no
la
load
tabla de
screens
las
and
consolas.
superfast
Dice que se ha
streaming to
filtrado.
become a reality. Having said that, expandability of our SSD
Dice que
is going
son
to be quite
8
important.
núcleos,
Flash is costly,
8
and we may
núcleos a
very well want to add
3,5,
storage to whatever we put in console.
10,28 teraflops, 16
Now,
gigas,
the kind of storage
GDDR6.
depends on how you're going to use it. If you have an extensive PlayStation 4 library and you'd like to take advantage of backwards compatibility to play those games on PlayStation 5,
Almacenaje
then
expandible,
a
Blu-ray
large
4K.
external hard drive is ideal. You can leave your games on the hard drive and play them directly
No sé
from
si esto
there,
será verdadero.
thus saving the pricier SSD storage for your PlayStation 5 titles, or you can copy your active PlayStation 4 titles to the SSD. If your purpose in adding more storage is to play PlayStation 5 titles, though, ideally you would
El
add to
SSD
your
van a ser
SSD storage.
825
We will be
gigas, lo que ha
supporting
dicho antes.
certain M2
Son
SSDs. These
825
are
gigas.
internal drives that you can get on the open market and install in a bay in the PlayStation 5. As for which ones we support,
Eso es porque alguien ha descargado el vídeo y le ha dado para el final del vídeo.
custom I/O unit just like our SSD does. So they can take full advantage of the decompression, I/O coprocessors, and all the other features I was talking about. Here's the catch, though. that commercial drive has to be at least as fast as ours. Games that rely on the
¿Enseñará
speed
la
of our
consola al
SSD
final,
need to
como
work
hicieron con la Pro?
flawlessly with
Eso
the
ya es lo que no
M2
se sabe.
drive. When I gave the Wired interview last year, I said that the PlayStation 5 SSD was faster than anything available on PC. At the time, commercial
Está
M2
explicando
drives
que
used
por
PCIe
PCI Express
3.0
3.0
and
van a
4 lanes of that
3,5
kept
GB por
out at
segundo y con
3.5
el
gigabytes a second.
SSD nuevo de
In
la
other words,
PlayStation 5
no
mueve
PCIe
5,5
3.0
GB
drive
por
can hit the
segundo.
required spec. M2 drives with PCIe 4.0 are now out in the market. We're getting samples and seeing 4 or 5 gigabytes a second from them. By year's end, I expect there will be drives that
O sea que el
saturate
SSD que
4.0
lleva es
and
una
support
puta
7 gigabytes a
bestia.
second. Having said that, we are comparing apples and oranges, though, because that commercial M2 drive will have its own
Uy, eso casi, ¿se
architecture,
ha
its own
suscrito a
flash
alguien? ¿Una
controller, and
donación?
so on. For example, the NVMe specification lays out a priority scheme for requests that the M2 drives can use. And that scheme is pretty nice, but it only has 2 true priority levels. Our drive supports 6. We can
Claro, las dos consolas. Pero esos son los cartuchos que ya habíamos visto. ¿No os acordáis que yo hice un vídeo explicando lo de los discos duros que se extraían? Que yo conté y luego dijeron que no, que es que eso era de un juego. ¿Os acordáis? Que yo hice un vídeo de eso hablando de los discos duros, que eran como cartuchos y se podían meter y quitar y podías guardar tus juegos dentro. Eso me puse yo a divagarlo cuando vi la patente esa que había salido.
And some M2 drives have giant heat sinks. In fact, some of them even have their own fans. Right now, we're getting M2 drive samples and benchmarking them in various ways. When games hit beta as they get ready for the PlayStation 5 launch at year-end, we'll also be doing some compatibility testing to make sure that the architecture of particular M2 drives isn't too foreign for the games to
Tornillo de
handle.
acero Valirio.
Once we've done that compatibility testing, we should be able to start letting you know which drives will physically fit and which drive samples have benchmarked.
Por ahora lo que se han centrado es que el disco duro es una puta locura y que eso va a mejorar mucho para los juegos. 386 legionarios Astarte.
Okay, back to our principles.
Sí, eso que es suscripción. Suscripciones. Suscribiros los que tengáis las suscripciones públicas y salís en pantalla, si os suscribís. Todos los que tengáis suscripciones públicas, si os suscribís, salís en la pantalla. Y os ve todo el mundo en directo, Willy.
Of course, many of these capabilities result in more performance. That's part of why a PlayStation 5 teraflop is more powerful than a PlayStation 4 teraflop. But we aren't just
están demasiado quietas, se mueven de vez en cuando. Mira, este se está moviendo un poquito de vez en cuando.
That could not have been done before.
Están demasiado quietas.
We need higher performance.
Son aliens.
Every time we double the performance of some GPU component, we don't want to find out we've doubled the power consumed and the heat produced. But at the same time, we have to make sure the GPU can run PS4 games, and we have to ensure that the architecture is easy for the developers to adopt. Now, backwards compatibility was handled.
Lo importante es que digan la retrocompatibilidad, que me digan que funcione y que no. Hostia, pues suscripciones.
Suscripciones, Willy.
En directo salís.
The GPU supports ray tracing, but you
A
don't
mí es que no me
have
sale
ray
aquí.
tracing
Toma.
The GPU supports primitive
Toma,
shapes, but you can
en
release your first
directo.
game on PlayStation 5 without making any use of them. Before I get into the capabilities of the GPU,
Suscribiros al canal y saldréis en directo. Toma, otro. Venga, otro perrito
First,
piloto.
we have a custom AMD GPU based on their RDNA 2 technology. What does that mean? AMD is continuously improving and revising their tech. For
Si son
RDNA 2,
estatuas,
their
toma.
goals are, roughly
Suscripción.
speaking, to reduce power consumption by re-architecting the GPU to put data close to where it's needed, to optimize the GPU for performance, and to add a new.
Ahí sí dice la Ahí sí dice la retrocompatibilidad, Willy. 400 en directo, piperillos. Han filtrado ya una imagen del vídeo, del final dice que es 10,2 teraflops. 399 en directo, Willy. Venga, suscriptores. Que salí en pantalla los que tengáis la suscripción pública, claro.
Then they end up being just for us. If you see a
402 Willy en directo. Sube. Son maniquíes, son maniquíes, son extraterrestres comprados por Sony,
in producing technology useful in both
Hostia,
worlds.
tío.
It doesn't mean that we as Sony simply incorporated the PC part into our console.
Venga, venga,
This continuous
suscribiros,
improvement in
suscribiros.
AMD technology means it's dangerous
Por lo menos
to
nos reímos
rely
de
on
mientras, que no
teraflops
están
as an
diciendo nada,
absolute
sin
indicator of
mu.
performance.
Es
And
que lo que está
CPU
explicando
count
es
should
muy
be avoided
técnico, es
at
para
all.
gente que
In the
entienda
case of
del
CPUs,
desarrollo de
we
los
all
juegos. Hostia,
understand
toma,
this.
toma,
The
toma.
PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5
El
each
Jim
have
Ryan
great
estaba por ahí.
CPUs, but we never think that meant the capabilities and performance are equal. It's the same for CUs. For one thing, they've been getting much larger over time. Adding new features
Hostia,
means adding
ya ha
lots
bajado
of transistors.
395.
In fact, the transistor count for a PlayStation 5 CU is 62%
Suscríbete
larger
y
than the
dale a like
transistor
si
count for a
quieres. Ti,
PlayStation
ti,
4
ti, ti, ti,
CU.
ti. Ti, ti,
Second,
ti,
the
ti, ti. Hostia,
PlayStation
toma,
5
venga, más
GPU
suscripciones,
is
Willy.
backwards compatible with PlayStation 4.
Dos
What does
calvos
that mean?
flow,
One way you
Un
can
pipero
achieve
igual a medio
backwards
teraflop.
compatibility is to put the previous console's
Hostia,
chipset
hostia, la
in a
compatibilidad
hardware, like
con
we did with
PlayStation
some
3, PlayStation
PlayStation
2.
3s.
¡Pam! Ya
That's, of
está.
course, extremely expensive.
Ya está.
A better way is to incorporate any differences in the previous console's
Está
logic
explicando que
into
tener
the new
retrocompatibilidad de la
console's custom
PlayStation
chips.
3 de la 2 era
Meaning
muy
that
difícil.
even as the
Y ahora con la
technology
PlayStation
evolves, the
5,
logic and feature set that
el
PlayStation 4 and
PS4 Pro
PlayStation 4
nativo.
Pro titles
Vale, a
rely
ver qué
on
más.
is still available in backwards compatibility
Pro
modes.
Legacy Mode, Native
One
Mode y
advantage of this
PS4
strategy is
Legacy
that
Mode.
once backwards compatibility is in the
O sea
console,
que puede
it's
elegir
in. If not,
retrocompatibilidad
as
con
if a cost
PS4
down will remove
en
backwards
nativo,
compatibility like
en
it
modo
did
Pro
on
o en
PlayStation
modo
3.
Legacy.
Achieving this unification of functionality took
Pero no han dicho
years
nada
of
de
efforts
PS3 y de
by AMD,
PS2.
as any roadmap advancement creates a potential divergence in
Muchas
logic.
gracias por suscribiros,
Running
Willy
PS4 and
Boobies.
PS4 titles at boosted frequencies
Si
has
quieres
also
ser un
added
Willy
complexity.
Booby,
The
suscríbete
boost
ya,
is truly
que es
massive this
gratis.
time around, and some
Toma,
game
toma,
code
toma,
just
toma,
can't
toma,
handle it.
toma.
Testing has to be done on a title-by-title basis. Results are excellent, though. We recently
Pues
took
no
a
he dicho
look
nada de
at
la
100
retrocompatibilidad
PlayStation
con
4
la 3 y con
titles
la
as
2, ¿eh?
ranked by
Muy mal
platform,
eso, ¿eh?
and we're expecting almost all of them to be playable
Dice, la
at
silueta
launch
3
on
parece la
PlayStation
calva de
4.
Sassel.
With regards to new features, as I said, our strategy
No ha
was to
dicho
try
nada
to
de
break the new ground,
retrocompatibilidad
but
con
at the
las
same
consolas
time
más
not to
antiguas.
require use of the new GPU capabilities. For more than a decade, GPUs have imposed a restriction on game engines. Software handles vertex processing, but for the most part, dedicated hardware is responsible for the triangles and other geometry that the vertices
Solo ha dicho
form.
retrocompatibilidad
That
con la
means
4.
it's not possible to do even basic optimizations,
Muy mal
such
eso,
as
muy mal.
aborting processing of a
De verdad,
vertex
eso me
if all
parece muy mal.
geometry that uses it is off-screen. PlayStation 5 has a new unit called the Geometry Engine, which brings handling of triangles and other primitives under full programmatic control. As a game developer,
De la
you're
Play 1, la 2 y
free
la
to
3
ignore
no
its
han dicho nada.
existence and use the PlayStation 5 GPU as if it were no more capable than the PS4 GPU, or you can use
Pues yo
this
sí
new
quiero
intelligence in
retrocompatibilidad de
various
la Play
ways.
3, de la Play 2, porque tengo juegos para
Simple
jugarlo.
usage could be performance optimization, such as removing backfaced or off-screen vertices and triangles. More complex usage involves something called primitive shaders,
No,
which
lo que ha
allow the game
explicado
to
que una
synthesize
consola
geometry on the
PlayStation
fly
3
as
lo
it's
tenía
being
muy
made.
difícil tener
It's a brand new
retrocompatibilidad con la
capability.
PlayStation 2.
Using primitive shaders on PlayStation 5
Y han
will
dicho que
allow
ya
for
no.
a broad variety of techniques, including smoothly varying level of detail, addition of procedural detail to close-up objects, and improvements to particle effects and
Los
other
nuevos
visual
shaders va a
special
hablar, ¿eh?
effects. Another major new feature of
El
our
ray
custom
tracing.
RDNA 2-based GPU is ray tracing, using the same strategy as AMD's upcoming PC
La
GPUs.
retrocompatibilidad solo
The
con la
CUs
4 han
contain
dicho.
a
No han
new
dicho nada más.
specialized unit called the intersection engine, which can calculate the intersection of
Ha
rays
salido
with
PlayStation
boxes
3 y
and triangles.
PlayStation 2 porque
To use the
decía
intersection
que la
engine,
PlayStation
first you
3,
build what is
para tener
called an
retrocompatibilidad
acceleration
con la 2,
script.
era muy difícil
It's
y era por
data in
hardware.
RAM that contains all
Y
of
ahora ha
your
explicado que ahora la
geometry. There's a
retrocompatibilidad es
specific set
total y
of
muy
formats
fácil.
you can use. They're
Es lo
variations
que ha
on the
explicado.
same BVH concept. Then, in your shader program, you use a new instruction that asks the intersection engine to check a ray against the BVH. While the intersection engine is processing the requested ray triangle or ray box intersections, the shaders are free to
Por ahora lo que
duplicate.
se han centrado es
Having
que
said
los
that,
el
the
disco
ray
duro
tracing
es una
instruction
puta
is
locura,
pretty
el disco
memory
duro que
intensive,
tiene.
so it's a good
La
mix with
retrocompatibilidad
logic
puede
and
elegir nativa o
There's, of
puede
course, no
elegir la
need to use
retrocompatibilidad de
ray tracing.
PS4
PS4
Pro
graphics engines will
o
run
una
just fine
mejorada.
on PlayStation 5. But it presents an
Que el audio 3D
opportunity
es una
for
puta
those
locura,
interested.
dice.
I'm thinking it'll take
Ahora está
less than a
hablando de,
million rays a
de las
second to have
luces
a
en el
big
videojuego, los
impact on audio.
shaders,
That should be
los
enough
sistemas de
for audio
iluminación y todo eso.
occlusion and some reverb calculations. With a bit more of the GPU invested in ray tracing, it should be possible to do some very nice global illumination. Having said that, Adding ray-traced shadows and reflections to a traditional graphics engine could easily take hundreds of millions of rays a second, and full ray tracing could take billions. How far can we go? I'm starting to get quite bullish. I've already seen a PlayStation 5 title that's successfully using ray tracing-based reflections in complex
La página del
animated
otro lado se
scenes
ha caído ya.
with only modest costs.
Porque estamos
Another
aguantando
set of
hoy.
issues for the GPU involved size and frequency. How big do we make the GPU, and what frequency do we run it at? This is a balancing act. The chip has a cost, and there's a cost for whatever we use to
Ahora
supply
después voy
that
a
chip
jugar la
with
demo del
power
Resident
and
Evil
to
3
create.
en Twitch.
In
Porque en
general, I
YouTube
like
no puedo con
running
la
the
Xbox,
GPU
Willis.
at higher frequency.
Luego
Let me
me voy
show
a ir a
you
Twitch y
why.
voy a hacer directo de Resident Evil
Here's
3.
two possible configurations for a GPU
Sí.
roughly of the level of the PlayStation 4 Pro.
Hostia, o
This is a
me,
thought
o me creo
experiment.
una
Don't take these
cuenta, me creo
configurations
una
too
cuenta en la
serious.
PlayStation
If you
4
just calculate teraflops, you
de
get the same
Indonesia, de
number.
por ahí, y me
But
descargo el
actually, the
juego.
performance is noticeably different because teraflops is defined as the computational
No,
capability
los
of the
teraflops,
vector
teraflops.
MU. That's just one part of the GPU. There are a lot of other units. And those other units all run faster when the
Va a hablar de
GPU
los
frequency
teraflops
is
ahora.
higher. At 33% higher frequency, rasterization goes 33% faster. Processing the command buffer goes that much faster. The L2 and other caches have that much higher bandwidth, and so on. About the only downside is that system memory is 33% further away in terms of cycles. But the large number of benefits
A Cel ya
more
le
than
explotó la
counterbalance
cabeza,
them.
dice.
As a friend of mine says, a rising tide lifts all boats. Also, it's easier to fully use 36 CUs in parallel than it is to fully use 48
No, pero lo que voy a
CUs.
hacer es
When
descargarme,
files are small,
crearme
it's
una
much harder
cuenta,
to
me voy a
fill
crear
all
una
those
cuenta de
CUs with
PlayStation de
useful work.
Australia y
So there's a
entonces
lot
así
to
lo
be
puedo
said
hacer
for
por
faster,
YouTube mejor.
assuming you can handle the resulting power and heat issues, which
Voy a crearme
frankly
una cuenta
we
de
haven't
Australia
always done
y me
the
bajo
best
el
job
juego
at.
de Australia.
Part of the reason for that is, historically, our process for setting CPU and GPU
El
frequencies
consumo
has
de la
relied on some
consola.
heavy-duty guesswork with regards to how much electrical power games will consume and how much heat will be produced as a result inside of the console.
Ahora bla, bla.
Power
Esto es por
consumption
lo del
varies a
calentamiento.
lot
Contra
from
más
game to
consuma,
game.
más se
When I'm
calienta,
playing
claro.
God of War on my PS4 Pro, I know the
Dice,
power
quiero salir la
consumption is
pantalla.
high
Pon tu
just by the
suscripción
fan noise.
pública.
But
Tienes que
power
en
isn't simply
YouTube,
about engine
en
quality.
YouTube
It's
tienes
about
que
the
la opción es
minutiae
poner
of
tu
what's being
suscripción
displayed
pública,
with
que la vea
power.
todo el mundo y
It's
suscribirte para que salga.
counterintuitive, but processing dense geometry typically consumes less power than processing simple geometry, which is, I
Yo la
suspect, why
retrocompatibilidad
Horizon's
que he
Max
leído es
score,
que
with its
en
low
PlayStation
triangle
3 la
type, makes my
retrocompatibilidad era muy
PS4 Pro
difícil y que
heat up so
ahora
much.
con la 4 es muy fácil.
Our process on previous consoles has been to try to guess what the maximum power consumption during the entire console lifetime might be, which is to say, the worst case scene in the worst case game, and prepare a cooling solution that we think will be quiet at that power level. If
Para
we
mí
get
la
it right,
retrocompatibilidad es
fan
muy
noise is
importante,
minimal.
tío.
If we get it wrong, the console will be quite loud for the higher power games, and
Porque
there's
yo quiero
even a
tener mi
chance that it might
PlayStation 3
overheat and
guardada y
shut
no
down
tenerla
if we
fuera. Para eso tengo una
misestimate
consola
power
nueva y
too
puedo
badly.
jugar todo en la misma.
PlayStation 5 is especially challenging because the CPU supports 256-bit native instructions
Y
that
ahí, toma,
consume a lot
suscripción,
of power.
suscripción, Willy.
These are great here and there, but presumably only minimally used. Or are they?
Directo
If we
mítico,
plan for
Willy, ¿eh?
major 256-bit instruction usage, we need to set the CPU clock substantially lower or
Suscríbete
noticeably
y
increase
sale
the
la
size
pa
of
pa
the
pa
power
pa
supply
pa
and fan.
pantalla. Pero tienes
So,
que poner
after
tu
much discussion, we decided to
suscripción
go with a very different direction on PlayStation 5.
pública.
We built a GPU with 36
A ver,
CUs. Mind you, RDNA 2
RDNA2.
CUs are large. Each has 62% more transistors than the CUs we were using on PlayStation 4.
Es el
So,
chip nuevo,
if
¿no?
we compare transistor counts, 36 RDNA2 CUs equates to roughly 58 PlayStation 4 CUs.
36
It is a
RDNA2
fairly
CUs.
sizable GPU. Then we went with a variable frequency strategy for PlayStation 5, which is to
Aquí lo están
say, we
explicando todo, vamos,
continuously
punto por
run the
punto, para que
GPU
diga el
and
olvidado que
CPU
estas cosas
in
son
boost mode.
mentiras o son
We
carboflow.
supply a generous amount of electrical power and then increase the frequency of GPU and CPU until they reach the capabilities
Aquí
of
no van a
the
enseñar
system's
juegos, es
cooling
para hablar de
solution.
la
It's
consola.
a completely different paradigm. Rather than running at constant frequency and
Esto lo
letting
hicieron la otra
power
vez igual
vary
con la
based on the
PS4 Pro, es
capability, we
exactamente
run
igual
at
que
essentially
hicieron con la
constant
PS4
power
Pro.
and let the frequency
Podéis buscarlo.
vary based on the workload. We then tackled the engineering challenge of a cost-effective
Es que tiene un
and
portátil
high-performance
Vaio o
cooling
una tablet
solution
Vaio, Sony
designed
Vaio.
for that specific power level. In some ways, it becomes a simpler problem because there
Toma,
are
toma,
no more
suscripción, Willy.
unknowns. There's no need to guess what power consumption the worst-case game might have. As for the details of the cooling solution, we're saving them for our teardown. I think you'll be quite happy with what the engineering team came up with. So, how fast can we run the GPU and CPU with this strategy? The simplest approach would be to look at the actual temperature of the silicon die and throttle the frequency on that basis. But that won't work. It fails to create a consistent PlayStation 5 experience. It wouldn't do to run a console slower simply because it was in a hot room. So rather than look at the actual temperature of the
Eso es el
silicon
chip
die,
del que
we
se
look at the
cachondea olvidado de
activities
los
that the
chips.
GPU and CPU are performing and set the frequencies on that basis.
O sea,
which
está
makes
hablando
everything
de que se va a
deterministic
calentar
and
menos
repeatable.
y va a
While
hacer
we're at
menos
it,
ruido
we also
entonces,
used
claro.
AMD's Smart Shift technology and send any unused power from the CPU to the GPU so it can squeeze out a few more pixels. The benefits of this strategy are quite large. Running a GPU at 2 gigahertz was looking like an unreachable target with the old
¿Qué ha pasado en los
fixed-frequency
comentarios? ¿La has
strategy.
liado o qué?
With this new paradigm, we're able to run way over that. In fact, we have to cap the GPU frequency at 2.23 gigahertz so that we can guarantee that the on-chip logic operates properly. 36 CUs at 2.23 gigahertz is 10.3 teraflops.
10,3 teraflops tiene.
Most of its time at
10,3 teraflops.
that frequency and performance. Similarly, running the CPU at 3 gigahertz was causing headaches with the old strategy. But now we can run it as high as 3.5 gigahertz. In fact, it spends most of its time at that frequency. That doesn't mean all games will be running at 2.23 gigahertz and 3.5 gigahertz. When that worst-case game arrives,
Eso es lo que es
it will
que la
run
PlayStation
at a lower
4,
clock speed, but not too much lower.
La
To reduce
PlayStation-
power by 10%, it only takes a couple of percent reduction in frequency, so I'd
Ahí está.
expect any downclocking to be pretty minor. All things considered, the change to a variable frequency approach will show significant gains for PlayStation gamers. The final of our 3 principles was about finding new dreams. It's important for us on the hardware team to find new ways to expand or deepen gaming, and that's what led us to a focus on 3D audio. As players, we experience the game through the visuals, through audio, and through the feedback we receive from the controller, such as rumble or haptics.
¿La enseñarán al
Personally, I
final o
feel
no?
a game is just dead without audio. Visuals are, of course, important, but the impact of audio is huge as well.
Una
At the
PlayStation
same
Vaio,
time, the audio team on a game project has to do a lot with a little. For example, on PlayStation 4, there's fierce competition for the Jaguar CPU cores. Audio typically ends up getting just a fraction of a core. That's not much of a computational resource, particularly when you consider that the
399
visuals
euros va a
run
valer.
30 or 60 frames a second.
Y la
but
Xbox
audio
valdrá
processing must
150
happen
euros más
at
por ahí.
almost 200 times
Y claro,
a second.
será más gorda, por eso necesita más
So,
refrigeración.
it's been tough going making forward progress on audio with PlayStation 4, particularly when PlayStation 3
Ha estado
was such a
explicando eso de
beast
para
when it
que
came
no
to
tuviera una
audio.
frecuencia tan alta, que eso
SPUs
no se
themselves were almost a
sobrecaliente.
perfect device for audio rendering. Simple pipelined algorithms could really take advantage of asynchronous DMA and frequently
procesador
reach
se lo-
100% utilization of the floating point unit. There's unfortunately nothing comparable on PlayStation 4. Probably the most dramatic progress in the PlayStation 4 generation has been with virtual reality. The PSVR hardware has its own audio unit. It supports about 50 pretty decent 3D sound sources. And this provided a hint as to where we could go with audio, as well as some valuable experience. Not to oversimplify, but here were our goals for audio on PlayStation 5. The first goal was great audio for everyone, not just VR users or soundbar owners or headphone users. That meant audio had to be part of the console. It couldn't be a peripheral.
La PS5 ya
The
dijeron que
second goal
costaba
was
de
to support
fabricar
hundreds of
350
sound
dólares,
sources. We
pues la
didn't want
consola valdrá
developers to have to pick and
399
choose
euros.
what
No,
sounds would get 3D effects
399
and which
euros vale.
wouldn't. We wanted every
400.
sound in
Y
the
la
game
Xbox
to have
valdrá unos
dimension.
500 euros y pico. Va a
And
ser como la
finally, we
PS4 Pro
wanted
y
to
la
really
Xbox
take
One
on
X.
the challenges of presence and locality. Now, when we say presence, we mean the feeling that you're actually there. You've entered the matrix.
La
It's
PS5
not,
vaya a
of course,
menos
something we
frecuencia,
thought
va a
we could
gastar menos
perfectly achieve,
energía,
but the
va a ser más
idea was that if we
pequeña
stopped
y va a
using just a raw
llevar
sound
menos
and
refrigeración. No hace
instead
falta que
used
tenga una
lots of
turbina
3D
como la
audio
Xbox
sources
nueva
for
por arriba.
raindrops hitting the ground at all sorts of locations around you, then at some point your brain would take a leap and you'd begin to have this feeling of real presence inside the virtual world of the game. This has the capacity to affect your appreciation of the game, just like music in a game does. The concept of locality is simpler. It's just your sense of where the audio is coming from, to the right of you, behind you, above you. This can immerse you further in the game, and it can also directly enhance the gameplay. To use Dead Space as an example, I know, old school, you're fighting enemies in fairly dark, spooky locations. Back in the day, if you played the game using the TV speakers, you could tell that there was one last enemy growling and hunting you down, but it was difficult to tell quite where that enemy was. With headphones, you could tell that the enemy was somewhere on the right, which let you deduce, if you couldn't see it, that it must
Pero
be
que vamos,
somewhere
que yo con los
behind
cascos que
and to
tengo
your left.
5.0,
But with
yo
3D
escucho
audio
cuando un
with good
enemigo lo tengo
locality,
detrás y
the
cuando lo
idea
tengo
is you
delante.
know
Se
the
escucha,
enemy
tío.
is precisely there, and you turn and you take it out.
Es más, en
So,
el Days Gone,
how do
cuando
we
vas
know where
jugando,
sound
sabes
is
por dónde
coming
está la
from
horda
in
porque
the
lo
first
escuchas
place?
perfectamente por los cascos.
Well, all those bumps and folds in the ear have a meaning, evolutionarily speaking. Based on what direction the sound is coming from, sound waves bounce around inside the ear, there's some constructive and destructive interference, and the result is a change in volume. The phase of the sound also shifts, depending on what path the sound wave took to reach the ear canal. These volume changes and phase shifts are different for each direction and also vary depending on the frequency of the sound. Head size and head shape also impact the sound in a similar fashion. The way that the sound changes, based on direction and frequency, can be encoded in a table called the Head-Related Transfer Function, or HRTF. Here's part of one. The vertical axis is the frequency. The horizontal axis is the direction, front, back, left, right, and the color gives the degree of attenuation of the sound at that frequency. The HRTF is as unique to an individual
Yo la
as a
PS5 me la
fingerprint
compro
is.
día
In
1. La
fact, you're
Xbox
looking at
One
mine right
nueva,
now.
si salen juegos
Here's how we
interesantes me
measure
la
an
compro, si no, no.
HRTF. We've taken hundreds
Porque
of
la otra la
different
tengo ahí
responses.
cogiendo polvo todavía.
We put a microphone in the subject's left and right ear canals.
Pero vamos, el
And then
follón se
sit the
termina
subject
rápido,
down in the middle of an array
dando un
of
clic,
22
baneaditos.
speakers. We then play an audio sweep from each speaker
Yeah.
as we rotate the subject. In the course of 10 or 20 minutes, we're able to sample the HRTF at over 1,000 locations. Using an HRTF when rendering audio creates unparalleled quality, but it's computationally expensive. The simplest way to use an HRTF is to process a sound source to make it appear as if it's coming from one of those.
Ahora falta
1,000
saber si va a haber un
locations we
modelo
sample.
Pro, como habían dicho, que va a haber un
Unfortunately,
modelo
the
normal y un
processing
modelo
has to be
Pro.
done in frequency domain rather than time domain, so there's multiple fast
Que yo
Fourier
creo que de
transforms
salida no lo
needed
van a
for
sacar.
every sound source for every audio tick. That's a
No,
lot
de salida
of
no.
multiplies. This computational complexity was the determining factor for our strategy. It meant we had to bite the bullet and design and build a custom hardware unit for 3D audio. Collectively,
Es que vamos, que de salida con esas características, ya sean 10 o 12 teraflops, es que eso es una burrada, tío.
3D audio tech. The meaning of 3D audio and technology should be pretty obvious here. As for Tempest, I feel it really reflects our goals with audio. It suggests a certain intensity of experience and also hints at your presence within it. We're calling the hardware unit that we built the Tempest engine. It's based on AMD's GPU technology. We modified a compute unit in such a way as to make it very close to the SPUs in PlayStation 3. Remember when I said that they were ideal for audio? So the Tempest engine has no caches, just like an SPU. All data access is via DMA, just like an SPU. Our target was that it would have more power than a CPU, thanks to the parallelism that a GPU can achieve, and that it would be more efficient than our GPU, thanks to the SPU-like architecture. The goal being to make possible near 100% utilization
Yo sí
of the
tengo un
CU's
PC.
vector units.
Pero es que a mí no me
Where
gusta
we
jugar en
ended up
PC.
is a unit with roughly the same SIMD power and bandwidth as all 8 Jaguar cores in the PlayStation 4 combined. If we were to use
Me
the same
acabo de comprar el
algorithms as
Ori 1 y el Ori
PSVR,
2 para la
that's enough for
Xbox,
something
en vez de
like
comprármelo para PC.
5,000 sound sources. But of course, we want to use more complex algorithms, and we don't need anything like that number of sounds. It would have been wonderful if a simpler strategy, such as using Dolby
El señor
Atmos
del cuñado,
peripherals,
pues
could
ahora
have
todavía
achieved our
más, dirá
goals, but we
que
wanted
la
3D
Xbox es una
audio for
mierda y que
all,
las consolas son
not
una
just
mierda y que
those
el
with
PC es mejor.
licensed soundbars or the like. Also, we wanted many
Si la
hundreds of
PlayStation
sound
hubiera
sources,
puesto
not just
13
the 32
teraflops, diría que no,
Atmos
que sí,
support.
que ahora esos 13
And
teraflops sí
finally,
son
we
de verdad
wanted
y
to
los
be
de la
able to
Xbox son
throw
de
an
mentira.
overwhelming amount of processing power at the problem, and it wasn't clear what any peripheral might have inside of it. In fact, with the Tempest engine, we've even got enough power that we can allocate
¿Dónde
some to
pone
the
que eso es
games, to the extent
retrocompatible
that
con
games
100
want to
juegos?
make use of
Si
convolution
ha
rework
explicado antes
and
que
other
hay
algorithms
3
that are
tipos de
either computationally
retrocompatibilidad.
expensive or need high bandwidth. But the primary purpose of the Tempest engine remains 3D audio. Now, 3D audio is a major academic research topic. It's safe to say that no one in the world has all of the answers. And the set of algorithms that has to be invented, tuned, or implemented to realize our vision for 3D audio is immense. For example, use of HRTFs in games is quite complex. Before, I talked about making a sound source appear as if it's coming from one of those 1,000 HRTF sample locations. But for high-quality 3D game audio, we have to handle
Los
other
rumores que va a haber dos
possibilities.
consolas,
The sound source might not be at one of the 1,000 HRTF
pero yo
sample
lo
locations.
dudo que
We have to
saque de salida
blend
dos
the
consolas.
HRTF data from the closest
Eso es
locations
joder la
that have
producción
some.
de las consolas, eso
The
es lo más
sound source
difícil y
might
más
be
cara.
moving, which needs very special handling as that blend keeps changing, and that can cause phase artifacts in the resulting audio. Or the sound source might have a size to it, meaning it should feel as if it's coming from an area rather than a single point.
El
There's also
procesador a
whole
3,5
categories of approaches
GHz
to
han
be
dicho.
handled. 3D audio can be implemented
El
using
procesador
individual
dice que es a
processing with 3D
3,5
sound
con
sources,
frecuencia variable.
but alternatively, ambisonics can be used for
Y la
3D audio.
GPU
Ambisonics is
10,28
somewhat like
teraflops de
the
36Q
spherical
a
harmonics used in
2,23
computer
GHz.
graphics. And finally, there's audio devices. The player might be using headphones or TV speakers or have a higher-end surround
Disco duro
sound setup
interno, un
with 6 or more
SSD
speakers,
de
all of which need different
825
approaches.
GB.
That's a lot of variations. It's nice to have the computational resources of the Tempest engine, but it's clear that achieving our ultimate goals with 3D audio is going to be a multi-year, step-by-step process. Having said that, headphone audio implementation is largely complete at this time. It was a natural place for us to start. With headphones, we control exactly what each ear hears, and therefore the algorithmic development and implementation are more straightforward. For TV speakers and stereo speakers, we're in the process of implementing virtual surround sound. The idea being that if you're sitting in a sweet spot in front of the TV, then the sound can be made to feel as if it's coming from any
Que el
direction.
hardware de la
even
Xbox nueva es mejor.
Virtual
Ah, lo
surround
importante es
sound
los
has a
juegos.
lot in common
A ver
with
si me
3D
callan la
audio
boca y
and
sacan un juego que
headphones, but
merezca la
it's
pena,
more
porque lo que hay
complex
anunciado para mí ahora
because
mismo no
the
merece la
left
pena
ear can hear
comprármela.
the right speaker
Ojalá
and
me
vice
callen la
versa.
boca.
We have a basic implementation of virtual surround sound up and running. We're now looking at increasing the size of that sweet spot, which is to say, making the area you need to be in to feel the 3D effect larger, and we're also working to boost the sense of locality. Headphone audio is the current gold standard for 3D audio on
No una
PlayStation 5,
conferencia, un
but
vídeo
we're going to
grabado que
see
iban a
what we can
sacar
do
en
to bring
el de esto de
virtual
Boston.
surround sound to a similar level, after which we'll start in on setups with more speakers, such as 6-channel surround sound. It's now to the point where
Dice
some
que
of the
Xbox
PlayStation 5
Series S,
games in
Xbox
development
Series
are
X,
extensively
PS5 y
using these
PS5 Pro.
systems. One of the game demos allows you to toggle between conventional PlayStation 4 style stereo audio and our new 3D audio.
Microsoft tiene otra consola que es menos potente, que ya lo habían dicho.
Sí, una Lockhart la llamaban.
3D audio has that dimensional feel to it. Conventional stereo audio feels smashed flat by comparison. The improvement is obvious. So, a big advancement, but have I entered the matrix? Does my brain believe I'm really there, like I was talking about earlier when I explained our target of presence? Well, the answer is no, but you've probably caught on to what's missing here, namely whose HRTF was being used. It wasn't mine, it was the default HRTF. The audio team analyzed the hundreds that they measured and chose the one they felt was the closest fit to the total game-playing audience. This shows a piece of the default HRTF on the left and my HRTF on the right. You can see that the general features are much the same, but the details are quite different. With the default HRTF, as I said, the 3D audio sounds pretty great. When I use my HRTF, though, the audio reaches a higher level of realism, which is to say that when using headphones and my HRTF, I occasionally get fooled and even think a sound is coming from the real world when it's actually coming from the game. A corollary to this is that there are a few people whose HRTFs are sufficiently far from the default HRTF, that's the red dot here, that they can toggle between PS4 style and PS5 style audio and not sense much difference. I've had a few people describe the PlayStation 5
El público no es de
3D audio
mentira,
as
que estáis
sounding like
ciegos,
a bit better
si se mueven de
stereo
vez en
audio.
cuando. El
Presumably
público de
they're the ones
mentira
at the
dice,
very edges of this diagram. Which means what HRTF you're using is key. I'd like everyone to be able to experience what I'm
es que un
experiencing, but
terabyte no lo va a
obviously
tener,
it's not
porque hay una
possible to
parte que se
measure
la
the
come
HRTF of
lo que es el
every
disco duro y luego lo que
PlayStation
lleva
user.
también el sistema
That means
operativo.
HRTF selection
A ver, el
and
sistema
synthesis
operativo
are
tiene
going
una
to be
cosa
big
que
topics
siempre es
going
firme.
forward as the Tempest technology matures.
Han
At
puesto lo que da
PlayStation 5
libre
in
ya
March,
de
we'll be
verdad.
offering a choice of 5 HRTFs. There's a simple test where you pick the one that gives you the best locality. That's just the first step, though. This is an open-ended research topic. Maybe you'll be sending us a photo of your ear, and we'll choose a neural network to pick the closest HRTF in our library. Maybe you'll be sending us a video of your ears and your head, and we'll make a 3D model of them and synthesize the HRTF. Maybe you'll play an audio game to tune your HRTF. We'll be subtly changing it as you play and home in on the HRTF that gives you the highest score, meaning that it matches you the best. This is a journey we'll all be taking together over the next few years. Ultimately, we're committing to enabling everyone to experience that next level of realism. Hopefully, I've been able to illustrate a bit about our design and decision-making process today and why PlayStation 5 has the feature set that it does. Now comes the fun part. We get to see how the development community takes advantage of that feature set. I'm hoping for the completely unexpected.
Porque estaría guapo que en el cajón ese tuviera una PS5 y la enseñara ahora, ¿eh? Pero eso no lo van a enseñar ahora, ¿eh? Eso es lo que estaría guapo. O que pusiera el precio, ¿eh?
Thank you for your time.
Ya está, no van a decir más nada. Ya está. Pues ya se ha acabado aquí. Yo lo de la retrocompatibilidad con PS2, eso lo había inventado, ¿eh? Retrocompatibilidad solo con 100 juegos, ¿dónde lo dice? Porque ahí no he dicho eso de retrocompatibilidad con 100 juegos. A ver. Pues ya miramos, vamos a ir porque las páginas web ya verán, tendrán la información ya puesta, oficial, a ver si eso es verdad lo de los 100 juegos. Porque si solo tiene retrocompatibilidad con 100 juegos, es que más, ya me dirás tú. Los cuñados. Aquí no hay nada vamos a mirar Mary Station. Así en Mary Station tienen ya los datos, porque se supone que a la prensa le pasan antes las notas y las tienen todas ya. A ver, Mary Station.
Son 8 núcleos a 3,5 GHz. Una GPU basada en RDNA2. Entonces sería 10,28 teraflops y 36 unidades de cómputo a 2,23.
8 núcleos a 3,5. 36 Qs a 2,23 GHz. 16 GB de RAM, GDDR6. El SSD. Estoy mirando a ver si es verdad lo de los 100 juegos. Coño. A ver. Aquí no dice nada de lo de 100 juegos.
Yo supongo que eso será como han hecho con Xbox, ¿no? Verifica que tienes el juego y hará una especie de...
En ningún momento yo he visto lo de 100 juegos. Lo que han dicho es que hay 3 modos de retrocompatibilidad. Una que es como si fuera una PlayStation 4, una como si fuera una PlayStation 4 Pro y otra que es ya mejorada como si fuera adaptada para la PlayStation 5. Que puede elegir las 3 formas de ver los juegos. Es lo único que ha dicho. Y ha dicho que es retrocompatibilidad con PC4, con la PC1 y la PC2, ¿no? Lo que ha explicado es que la retrocompatibilidad de PlayStation, que tenía PlayStation 3 de la 2 era muy difícil Y han dicho
Sí.
que aquí va bien, que no sé qué, que hay un montón de modos de retrocompatibilidad. Eso de 100 juegos, no sé de dónde se lo está inventando. Habrá visto el Carbo por ahí un 100 en algún lado y habrá dicho solo con 100 juegos. Con las demás no va a ser retrocompatible porque es que no lo han dicho. A ver, vamos a mirar Vandal. Vandal. A ver, vamos a Vandal. Se me ha sonado el WhatsApp. Twitter área jugones. Lo que he dicho es que el catálogo de PS4 no estará al 100% disponible el día de lanzamiento, no que solo van a hacer 100 juegos.
Claro,
Obviamente,
irá poco a poco.
habrá compañías que tienen que arreglar sus juegos como han hecho con la Xbox. PS5 será 100 veces más rápido que el disco duro de PS4 y el doble que Xbox Series X. Además, se podrá ampliar el almacenamiento con un HD externo. Y lo de la retrocompatibilidad de la antigua no hay nada. O sea que por hardware la Xbox es mejor.
Sí, sobre el papel, sí. Otra cosa es cómo se programe y lo aprovechen.
Y luego lo importante, lo que yo he dicho, que lo
Los juegos,
importante es los juegos. Que a ver si Microsoft
claro.
me calla la boca y me hace que me gaste 600 euros en su consola. Que es lo que va a pasar, la Xbox valdrá unos 500 y pico, 600 euros, la PlayStation 4 valdrá unos 400 euros. Y bueno, ya vamos a terminar aquí el directito, ¿no? ¿Tú tienes algo que comentar?
No, yo ya que más o menos yo esto lo esperaba por Digital Foundry, aunque se han quedado un pelín cortos, pero eso también juega a favor de lo que viene a ser el precio, porque el precio de esta consola puede ser que sea más barata que Xbox y otra vez llevarse la generación.
Especificaciones, aquí está lo mismo, ¿eh? Aquí están los números. Potencia y eficiencia. Lo que ha estado explicando es lo de las temperaturas, que no le han querido meter más nada para no subirle eso mucho ahí de frecuencia. Dice, mira 3 de juego. Mira 3 de juego, a ver qué dice 3 de juego.
Sí, yo lo estoy viendo.
3 de juego. Aunque vamos, todas han tenido lo mismo porque Sony le habrá pasado los mismos detalles.
Claro,
Estas son las características de PlayStation 5, pero lo de 10 juegos solo eso se lo han inventado. Pone que no estará el 100% de juegos.
eso irá poco a poco.
Pero eso como pasó con la PS4 Pro también. Aquí están todos los datos otra vez, 8 núcleos. Y mira, esta es la antigua, que eran 8 núcleos a 1,6. Ahora son 8 núcleos a 3,5, ¿eh? La
Ya ves tú,
gráfica es 10 veces más potente, ¿eh?
sabe Antonio que con 1,84 teraflops la PS4 ha hecho maravilla,
Ya ves,
imagínate con 10,28.
lo que decía yo, que con medio teraflop. Ancho de memoria de banda, esto es lo importante, ¿eh? 448 GB segundo, ¿eh? Y a mí me hace gracia que están criticando lo de 1 TB, 826 GB libres. Es que eso está de puta madre. Es que yo tengo 1 TB en la PS4 Pro y yo tengo fecha de juego y yo no tengo ningún problema. ¿Por qué? Porque yo tengo instalados 5 o 6 juegos y me voy pasando uno y lo borro, me voy a instalar otro. Yo nunca he tenido problema de espacio con la consola. Claro, yo luego cojo, meto mi disco y se instalan los 70 gigas del disco y solo te tiene que descargar de internet 2 o 3 de parche.
No,
Que eso es lo que
parche,
pasa.
claro. Mm,
Y aparte tengo buena conexión. Si hay gente que lo tiene todo digital y tiene conexiones del año de Mari Castaña, pues es lo que pasa.
las conexiones que están llegando ahora a Cuba.
Pues nada, aquí tenemos los datos de la PS4 normal. Es que también hay que tener en cuenta que la Xbox son dos modelos. El modelo pobre, que no lo han dicho, y el modelo bueno,
Claro, que lo
que va a
mismo
tener.
Lo mismo está en la consola normal.
Esto tú tienes que comparar esto en verdad al modelo pobre de la Xbox que tiene que salir, que es el Series S. Porque va a estar el Series X y el Series S.
Claro.
Que a lo mejor el Series S, el que habían dicho, porque habían visto un chip que iba a 9 teraflops, que yo supongo que eran los dos de Xbox, uno de 9 y el otro de 12. Supongo que eran los dos que habían visto, los de Digital Foundry. Y esta gente más adelante yo creo que sacará la PC5 Pro. Que de esa manera también venden más, porque la gente se va a comprar las 5 todo el mundo de salida, ¿eh? Luego ya habrá
Claro.
gente que cambia la Pro, ¿eh? ¿Sabes más?
Y eso no me gusta ni un pelo, porque te hacen gastar doble.
Ah,
Tanto Microsoft como Sony, vamos. No es porque sea marca.
pues nada. Vamos a terminar el directo y yo voy a merendar y me voy a poner a jugar al Blasphemous, que está muy guapo y tengo monillo, ¿eh? Lo dejan en stand-by la consola, ¿eh?
Pero tú cuando juegas al Blasphemous, ¿tú rezas y todo?
Yo, claro, yo estoy rezando con los pies, estoy con las manos jugando y con los dedos de los pies los tengo entrelazados rezando, ¿eh?
Pues bueno, pues nada, ha sido un buen rato.
Venga, hasta luego, hasta luego.